Welcome back, guys. If you're new here, subscribe and leave your comment. And tonight's story is about a man who spent 10 years behind quarantine fences, waiting for the day he could finally get out, only to watch everything break down at the worst possible moment. So, let's begin.
The morning starts with shouting on Cargill Road. About 40 people standing in line outside the distribution point, same as every Tuesday, except today there are twice as many and nobody's moving. Rations were supposed to go out at 6. It's already 7:15 and the steel shutters haven't gone up. A woman near the front kicks the door and the sound carries down the whole block. I'm standing near the back, close to the wall where the old bus shelter used to be. There's nothing left of it now, except the bolts in the pavement and a faded route map under cracked plastic. Route 9. I drove that route in the depot simulation when I was 19, back when they still trained people for jobs that didn't exist anymore. I know every stop between here and the outer ring. The crowd gets louder. Somebody throws a tin at the shutters, and it bounces off with a flat clang. 2 zone constables come around the corner from Marsden Lane, both carrying batons, both walking too fast. The taller one is Constable Gilroy, who's been posted at Cargill since before I can remember. He doesn't look annoyed, he looks worried. Gilroy raises one hand and tells everyone to step back. He says the distribution delay is temporary and the ration schedule will resume by noon. Nobody believes him. A man near the middle of the crowd, big guy with a grey coat and a beard that hasn't been trimmed in weeks, steps forward and asks about the buses. That's the real question. That's what everyone's been talking about since the announcement 3 days ago. Evacuation. Transfer to the southern corridor. Buses arriving Tuesday morning. It's Tuesday morning. There are no buses. Gilroy says the Transport Authority is handling logistics. He says delays are expected. Then he turns to the shorter constable and says something I can't hear, and both of them walk back the way they came. Nobody follows. Nobody chases them. We've all been doing this long enough to know that chasing a constable gets you put in the holding block at Fenton Street, and the holding block doesn't have rations at all. I walk back east along Cargill toward the depot. The depot hasn't been operational for 8 years, but I still go there most mornings. Old habit. The building sits behind a chain-link fence topped with razor coil, and the front gate has been padlocked since the Transit Authority shut everything down in year 2. But the side door on Jessup Passage has a broken latch that nobody ever fixed, and I've been slipping through it since I was 23. Inside, it smells like diesel and damp concrete. There are 11 buses still parked in the bays, most of them stripped for parts over the years. 2 of them are compressed natural gas models, the Plaxton Centros that came in the year before the outbreak. Those 2 still have their engines intact because nobody in Halworth knows how to strip a CNG system without the risk of blowing themselves apart. I checked their fuel gauges about 6 months ago. Both still showed partial fill. Gas doesn't go bad the way diesel does. I sit on the driver's seat of the nearer one, bus number 472, and eat half a protein bar from yesterday's ration. Through the windscreen I can see the maintenance pit and the row of lockers along the far wall. My locker is third from the left. Still has my old name badge in it and a laminated route map that covers every road between the depot and the outer perimeter. 14 routes total. I memorized all of them by year 3 because there was nothing else to do. The transit radio on the dash doesn't work anymore, but the one in the dispatch office upstairs still picks up the zone constabulary channel if you hold the antenna at the right angle. I go up there sometimes and listen. Mostly it's patrol check-ins and curfew reports. Nothing interesting. But this morning, when I flip it on and wedge the antenna against the window frame, I hear something different. A voice I don't recognize is saying that Perimeter Section 7 has been reassigned. Another voice asks reassigned to where. The first voice says, that's above their clearance. Then a third voice cuts in, calmer than the others, and says all units should withdraw from sections 6 through 9 by 0800 and regroup at the inner checkpoint on Bradshaw Road. Withdraw, not reinforce. Withdraw. Sections 6 through 9 cover the entire northern fence line. That's almost a third of the perimeter. I've lived inside this zone for 10 years, and I've never once heard the word withdraw used about any section of the fence. I turn the dial to the second constabulary channel, the one they use for internal coordination. Nothing. Dead air. I try the third channel, which is supposed to be emergency only. A woman's voice is mid-sentence, saying something about a structural compromise at junction 41. She says the welded plate came loose during the night, and the gap is approximately 1.2 meters wide. She asks for an engineering team. Nobody responds. 1.2 meters. Wide enough for a person to walk through. Wide enough for anything to walk through. I leave the dispatch office and go back down to the maintenance level. In the tool cage near the pit, there's a steering column rod I pulled out of a wrecked Optar Solo about 4 years ago. It's 1.5 meters of solid steel, slightly tapered at one end, where it snapped. I spent 2 weeks grinding that broken end against the concrete floor until it came to a rough point. I wrapped the other end in electrical tape for grip. It's been leaning in the corner of the cage ever since, behind a stack of oil drums where nobody would look for it. I pick it up. It's heavier than I remember. I carry it back upstairs, lock the dispatch office, and walk out through Jessup Passage into the grey morning air. Halworth Quarantine Zone covers about 3 square kilometres of what used to be a residential district in the north of England. Before the outbreak, it was a commuter town with a rail station, a high street, 2 schools, and a population of about 12,000. Now it holds roughly 4,000 people behind a perimeter fence that's 3 meters tall, reinforced with concrete panels and razor wire, and patrolled by soldiers who answer to a command structure nobody inside the zone has ever met. We get rations twice a week, medical care once a month if you're lucky. Electricity runs 4 hours a day, 6 in winter. Water comes from a treatment plant on the south side that broke down in year 5 and has been running at half capacity ever since. There's a market on Cargill Road where people trade whatever they've managed to hold on to. Clothes, tools, batteries, soap. Medicine is the most valuable thing in the zone, and it's controlled by a man named Trent Broadley, who runs a crew out of the old pharmacy on Fenton Street. Trent is 46, heavy, and smart in the way that people are smart when they've spent their whole life finding angles. Before the outbreak, he managed a chain of betting shops across 3 counties. Now he manages the flow of antibiotics, pain medication, insulin, and surgical supplies into and out of Halworth. The zone administration knows about him. The constables know about him. Nobody touches him because he keeps the supply moving, and because his crew, about 15 people, are the most well-fed and well-armed civilians inside the fence. I don't work for Trent. I don't owe him anything, but I know people who do, and I know the routes his runners use because some of them follow the old bus lines through the maintenance tunnels beneath the streets. Those tunnels are another thing I know better than most. The Transit Authority built them decades before the outbreak as utility corridors connecting the depot to the main road junctions. They're narrow, concrete-walled, and run about 4 meters below street level. Most people in Halworth don't even know they exist. By 8:15, I'm back on Cargill Road, and the crowd outside the distribution point has grown. There are maybe 70 or 80 people now, and the noise is constant. I see Sef Ajay near the corner of Marsden Lane, leaning against a lamppost and watching the crowd with his arms folded. Sef worked at the depot with me before it closed. He's 33, tall, thin, and has a habit of standing very still when he's thinking. Right now he's thinking. I walk over and stand next to him. He doesn't look at me. He says he went past the Bradshaw Road checkpoint this morning, and it was empty. No constables, no soldiers, nobody. Just the barrier arm and the sandbag wall and an empty guard booth with the door hanging open. I tell him what I heard on the transit radio. The withdrawal order. The structural compromise at junction 41. He doesn't react for a long time. Then he says we should go look. We don't go look. Not yet. Because at 8:22, the sirens start. Not the curfew siren, which is a single long tone at 9 every night. This is the breach siren, 3 short blasts, repeating. I've heard it tested twice in 10 years. Both times it was a drill, and they announced it over the loudspeakers beforehand. There's no announcement this time. The crowd outside the distribution point goes quiet. 70 people standing in the street, and for about 5 seconds there's no sound except the siren cycling through its pattern. Then somebody says it's a drill. Somebody else says it's not a drill. Then everybody starts talking at once, and the crowd begins to break apart. People peeling off in different directions. Some heading home, some heading toward the perimeter, some just standing still because they don't know what to do. Seth grabs my arm and pulls me toward Marsden Lane. He says Junction 41 is north of us, about 6 blocks past the old railway bridge. If something came through a gap in the fence up there, it could reach Cargill Road in 20 minutes walking speed, faster if it runs. And some of them run. We call them different things in Halworth. The constables use the word afflicted. The zone administration says compromised individuals. Most people just say the grey ones, or the gone, or the wrong ones. I've heard older residents call them stiffs, crawlers, biters. Trent Broadley's crew calls them empties. Doesn't matter what you call them. They move, they grab, they bite. And once they get their hands on you, the infection takes hold in hours. You don't come back from it. You just come back. Seth and I go north along Marsden Lane at a fast walk. The streets are emptying. People are going indoors. Shutters are coming down on the few shop fronts that still operate. A woman carrying a toddler runs past us going the opposite direction and doesn't say a word. 2 blocks up, at the junction with Fenwick Road, we see the first zone constable we've seen since Gilroy. He's standing in the middle of the road with his baton out, waving people south, telling them to go home and stay inside. His name tag says Hargreaves. He looks about 22. Seth asks him what's happening at the perimeter. Hargreaves says he doesn't know. He says his orders are to direct civilians south of Fenwick Road and maintain a clear corridor for emergency vehicles. I ask him where the emergency vehicles are. He doesn't answer. We go around him. 2 more blocks north, past the railway bridge, and the streets are empty. No people, no constables, nobody. The houses here are terraced rows with small front gardens that nobody maintains anymore. Most of the windows are boarded. Some of the doors are standing open, which means the residents left in a hurry, or the residents left a long time ago and someone else has been through since. At the junction with Alderton Street, we can see the perimeter fence about 200 meters ahead. There's a section where the concrete panels meet a run of chain link, and I can see where the chain link has been pulled away from its frame. The gap is wide, not 1.2 meters, more like 3 meters now, because something heavy has pushed through and torn the fencing wider since the report I heard on the radio. And through the gap, walking slowly along Alderton Street toward us, there are 5 of them. They're in various states. The closest one is wearing what's left of a military uniform, torn and stained brown and black, with most of the skin on its face hanging loose, peeling away from the bone. It walks with a tilting gait, one leg dragging, arms hanging forward. Behind it are 4 more, spread across the width of the street, moving at roughly the same speed. None of them are running. Not yet, Seth swears under his breath. He says we need to go. I'm already backing up. The thing about the gone, the first thing anyone learns, is that they respond to sound and movement. Walk away quietly, and you might keep distance. Run, and you'll attract everything within earshot. Make a loud noise, and you'd better have a locked door within reach. We back down Alderton Street, keeping our eyes on them, moving heel to toe the way the old zone safety leaflets used to recommend. At the junction, we turn south onto Marsden Lane and pick up the pace. Behind us, I can hear them, not groaning, not screaming, just a shuffling sound, feet dragging on tarmac, mixed with a clicking noise that I've never been able to explain and don't want to think about. By the time we reach Fenwick Road, Constable Hargreaves is gone. His baton is lying in the middle of the road. There's no blood. He just left. We keep going south, moving fast now, nearly jogging, and as we pass the railway bridge, I look back and I can see them at the far end of Marsden Lane. Not 5 anymore. 8, maybe 10, and they're moving faster than before. Something has excited them. Maybe us, maybe someone else. We get to Cargill Road, and the ration crowd is gone. The distribution point shutters are still down. The street is empty, except for an older man sitting on a doorstep across from the old bus shelter. His name is Reggie Firth. He's 68, and he's been in the zone since day one. I know him because he used to bring his radio to the depot on Sunday evenings, and we'd listen to whatever broadcasts were still transmitting from the southern settlements. Reggie looks at us and asks where the fire is. Seth tells him the perimeter is breached at Junction 41, and the gone are inside the zone. Reggie nods, unsurprised. He says the perimeter's been deteriorating for 2 years, and nobody fixed it because the budget went to the southern corridor instead. He says Halworth was always the last priority. I ask him if he's going to come with us. He asks where. I point south toward the depot. He shakes his head. He says his flat is right here, and he's got water and tinned food for 2 weeks, and a door that bolts from the inside. He says he survived the first wave 10 years ago by staying put, and he'll survive this one the same way. I don't argue. He's 68. He's earned the right to make his own decisions. Seth and I go through Jessup Passage into the depot. I lock the side door behind us with the improvised bolt I installed 3 years ago, a piece of rebar through 2 welded brackets. It won't stop a determined group of people, but it'll hold against the gone. They can push, but they don't think about leverage or tools. Inside the depot, I go straight to the dispatch office and turn on the transit radio. The constabulary channel is a mess. Voices overlapping, people talking over each other, nobody following protocol. I pick out fragments. Breach confirmed at Junction 41. Breach confirmed at Junction 38. Breach suspected at Junction 29. Multiple afflicted within the zone perimeter. Estimated number unknown. Request immediate reinforcement from Garrison Command. Then a voice I recognize. Deputy Administrator Gail Whitmore, who oversees civilian operations for the zone. She sounds controlled, but the pitch of her voice is wrong. She says Garrison Command has been contacted and has not responded. She says the perimeter garrison withdrew to the outer checkpoint line at 0800 per standing orders and has not returned to their posts. She says all zone constables should activate their emergency kits and report to the inner ring checkpoint at Bradshaw Road for a defensive consolidation. Seth is standing behind me. He says defensive consolidation is an interesting way to say we're on our own. I switch to the emergency channel. The woman reporting the Junction 41 breach is still transmitting, but now she's describing a second gap further west, near what used to be Halworth Secondary School. She says there are at least 30 afflicted moving south through the school grounds toward the residential blocks on Pemberley Crescent. She says she can hear screaming from Pemberley Crescent. Then her transmission cuts off. Pemberley Crescent is 6 blocks from the depot. Not far at all. I pick up the steering column rod from where I left it by the door. Seth looks at it and then looks at me. He says we need to get to the tunnel entrance on Jessup Road. I tell him I know. The tunnel network runs from the depot south and west to 3 major road junctions. The southern branch exits at the Bradshaw Road junction. The western branch exits behind the old Civic Center. The third branch, the one most people don't know about, runs east under the railway embankment and comes out in the basement of the delivery warehouse on Stockton Road. Stockton Road is where the zone medical supplies are stored. It's also where Trent Broadley keeps his main stash, in a partitioned section of the warehouse that he took over in Year 4 when the zone constables stopped enforcing property rules. If the breach is real and the perimeter is collapsing, Trent is going to want to secure that warehouse before anything else. Medicine is worth more than food when people are injured and panicking. We go down to the maintenance level and through the access hatch into the tunnel. It's dark down here. I've got a wind-up torch that I keep in my jacket pocket, the kind with a crank handle that gives you about 3 minutes of light per 30 seconds of cranking. The beam is weak and yellow, but it's enough to see the tunnel walls and the floor. The tunnel is about 2 meters wide and just over 2 meters high, lined with concrete, with utility pipes running along the ceiling and a drainage channel in the floor. We head south. The tunnel is straight for about 200 meters. Then it bends west at a junction where a narrower branch splits off toward the civic center. We stay on the main branch. After another 100 meters, we reach the Bradshaw Road exit, a steel ladder leading up to a manhole cover in the pavement above. I can hear footsteps up there, multiple people moving. I put my hand on the ladder and feel the vibration through the metal. Seth whispers that we should keep going. I agree. We pass the Bradshaw Junction and continue east. This part of the tunnel is older and in worse condition. There are cracks in the walls where water seeps through, and the floor is uneven where the concrete has shifted over the years. Twice I have to duck under sections of pipe that have sagged from the ceiling. The air smells like wet stone and old rust. After about 300 meters, we reach the Stockton Road exit. The ladder here leads up into the basement of the delivery warehouse. I go first, climbing slowly, testing each rung. The manhole cover at the top is heavy and I have to push it sideways with my shoulder. It scrapes on the concrete floor above, and the sound echoes through the basement. The basement is dark and cold. Rows of steel shelving line the walls, most of them empty. The medical supplies that the zone administration stores here are on the upper floors. Trent's section is behind a partition wall on the ground floor, accessible through a door that his crew welded shut and fitted with a coded padlock. We come up through the floor, and I slide the manhole cover back into place. The basement is quiet. I can hear voices above us, on the ground floor, muffled by the ceiling. I count at least 4 distinct voices. One of them is Trent Broadley. I'd recognize his voice anywhere. He has a way of talking that sounds relaxed, even when he's giving orders. The words come out slow and flat, never rushed, even when he's giving orders. I put my ear against the ceiling and try to make out what they're saying. Trent is telling someone to lock the north-facing doors and put Stavros on the loading dock with the crossbow. Another voice, higher, possibly Warren Lumley, who's been part of Trent's crew for years, asks about the breach. Trent says the breach is an opportunity. He says the constables are going to be too busy dealing with the gone to watch the warehouse. He says they should move everything they can carry to the fallback location on Drummond Street before the zone administration sends anyone to secure the building. He's looting his own stash, moving it somewhere the officials won't find it, so that when the crisis passes, he controls all the medicine in Halworth instead of just most of it. Seth taps my shoulder and points at the stairs. I shake my head. Going upstairs means walking into Trent's crew, and Trent's crew doesn't appreciate uninvited visitors. We came here to know what was happening, and now we know. We go back to the manhole, back down into the tunnel, and head west toward the Civic Center exit. The Civic Center has been abandoned since year 3. It's a 2-story building on the corner of Whitfield Street and Park Avenue, with a flat roof and narrow windows that somebody bricked up years ago. The tunnel exit comes up in what used to be the boiler room in the basement. The door from the boiler room to the main building is unlocked. We go through into the ground floor corridor and find natural light coming through a gap in the brickwork where one of the window blocks has fallen out. From the window gap I can see Park Avenue stretching north and south. To the north, toward the perimeter, smoke is rising from somewhere near the railway bridge. Not a big fire, something small, maybe a car or a skip. To the south, the road is clear. I can see the rooftops of the houses on Pemberley Crescent about 4 blocks away, and beyond them the depot's flat roof with its rusted ventilation cowls. There are 3 of the gone standing in Park Avenue, about 100 meters north of us. They're not moving. They're standing still, in the middle of the road, heads tilted slightly, motionless, waiting for a sound. I've seen this behavior before, on the rare occasions when afflicted, have gotten through the perimeter in small numbers. They go still between bursts of movement, and then something triggers them, a sound, a vibration, a scent, and they move fast, and with direction. We wait. They drift slowly north, back toward the smoke, and after about 5 minutes the road is clear. We slip out through a ground floor fire exit and move south along Park Avenue, staying close to the building fronts, stepping carefully around broken glass and debris. At the corner of Whitfield Street and Pemberley Crescent, I see what the woman on the radio was talking about. There are bodies in the street, 3 of them. 2 are face down and not moving. The third is sitting upright against a garden wall, and when I look more closely I can see the wounds on her arms and neck. She's gone. Not dead. Gone. Her eyes are open, but there's nothing behind them. She's making small, repetitive motions with her hands, opening and closing her fingers against the bricks, scraping the skin off her knuckles without reacting. Seth puts his hand on my back and pushes me forward. We cross Pemberley Crescent without stopping. By mid-morning, the situation inside Halworth is worse than anything I've seen in 10 years. The breach is not a single gap. The perimeter has failed in at least 4 locations along the northern fence, and the Gon are moving deeper into the zone in groups of 5 to 20. The constables have fallen back to the inner ring checkpoint on Bradshaw Road, where Deputy Administrator Whitmore is trying to organize a defensive line with about 30 constables and whatever weapons they have. It's not enough. Seth and I are back at the depot. I've barricaded the main entrances with maintenance trolleys and steel tool cabinets. The side door on Jessup Passage has the rebar bolt. The service door on the loading bay is padlocked, and I've wedged a hydraulic jack under it from the inside. It's not a fortress, but it's solid. Concrete walls, steel doors, small windows set high on the walls. The Gon can't climb, and they're not good with obstacles. On the transit radio, the situation reports keep getting worse. Junction 29 has been confirmed as a full breach. The Gon are in the Alderton Street area in large numbers, described as more than 50. There are reports of people trapped in houses on the north side of Fenwick Road. The constables can't reach them because the roads are blocked. Whitmore's voice comes on the emergency channel. She says the garrison has been contacted again and has confirmed that no reinforcement is being sent. She pauses after that sentence, long enough for the static to fill in. Then she says civilian evacuation through the southern gate is being assessed. That's when I start thinking about the buses. There are 2 Plaxton Centros in the depot with compressed natural gas tanks that might still hold enough fuel to drive. One tank read about 40% 6 months ago. The other showed about a quarter. A fully fueled Centro has a range of roughly 350 kilometers. 40% of that is 140 kilometers. The outer gate of the quarantine zone is about 3 kilometers from the depot, even allowing for the worst possible fuel consumption, even allowing for the gas losing pressure over years of sitting unused. There should be enough in those 2 buses to reach the outer gate and keep going for at least 50 kilometers into the countryside beyond. The problem is the route. The depot is in the eastern part of the zone. The outer gate is on the southern edge. Between here and there is the inner ring, which is a secondary fence line built in year 3 to separate the administrative core of the zone from the residential blocks. The inner ring has 3 gates: Bradshaw Road to the west, Stockton Road to the east, and the main gate on Halworth High Street to the south. From the inner ring, the High Street leads straight to the outer perimeter gate. Right now, the Bradshaw Road gate is where the constables are making their stand. Stockton Road is under Trent's control. The High Street gate might be open, might be blocked, might be overrun. I don't know. What I do know is that a bus weighs about 12 tons unladen and can push through chain-link fencing and light barricades without slowing down. The inner ring gates are steel-framed, but they're designed to stop people, not vehicles. I tell Seth the plan. His face doesn't change. He stands there for a while, looking at the 2 buses parked in their bays, and then he says he doesn't know how to drive a bus. I tell him I do. Technically, I was never certified because the depot closed before I finished training, but I've sat in these seats enough times to know the controls. Ignition procedure for a CNG bus is different from diesel. You have to wait for the gas pressure to equalize before you engage the starter. Takes about 30 seconds. I've practiced it in my head 100 times. Seth says we can't fit everyone in 2 buses. I say I know. I say we take whoever we can gather and we go. He asks about the rest of the zone. I say the rest of the zone has Whitmore and the constables and whatever plan they come up with. We're offering a way out for the people smart enough to take it. He says we need more people. Not passengers, people who can help. I agree. I ask him who he trusts. He thinks about it. He says Colette Barr, who used to be a nurse at the Zone Clinic before it ran out of supplies 2 years ago. He says Priya Chakravarti, who works in the water treatment plant and knows how to fix machines. He says Dennis Yardley, who's a former zone administration clerk and might still have access codes for the inner ring gates. I say go get them. He says, what about the gon? I hand him a tire iron from the tool cage and tell him to stay in the tunnels as far as he can, then surface near Fenwick Road and find them. He takes the tire iron and turns it over in his hands. He probably hasn't held a weapon before. Then he goes down to the maintenance level and into the tunnel, and I'm alone in the depot with 2 old buses and a sharpened steering column rod. I spend the next hour checking the buses. Bus 472 has a battery that's dead. The interior light doesn't come on when I flip the switch, and the dash instruments stay dark. I go to the tool cage and find a socket wrench and a pair of jump leads. The battery in bus 472 is a standard heavy vehicle unit, 12 volt, mounted in a compartment behind the front axle. I can see corrosion on the terminals, but the casing looks intact. The battery in bus 391, the second Centro, might be in better shape. I check it. The terminal connections are cleaner, and when I press the ignition test button on the dash, the instrument panel flickers. Not a full power-up, but a sign of life. I connect the jump leads between the 2 batteries, positive to positive, negative to chassis ground on the live bus. Then I go to 391 and try the ignition sequence. Switch on, wait for the gas system to pressurize. The gauge on the dash creeps upward. 20 seconds. 30. The pressure indicator light goes from red to amber. I turn the key to the start position. The starter motor grinds, catches, grinds again. Then the engine fires. It runs rough for about 10 seconds, coughing and surging, and then it settles into a low, uneven idle. The fuel gauge needle wobbles and stops at just above a quarter. The sound is enormous in the enclosed depot. I'd forgotten how loud a bus engine is when you're standing inside a concrete building. The gon can hear this. If any of them are within a few hundred meters, they'll be drawn to the depot. I let the engine idle and go to 472. The jump leads have had a few minutes to charge the dead battery. I disconnect them, go to 472's cab, and try the ignition. The dash lights come on, dim but functional. Gas pressure building. The gauge moves slower than the other bus. 40 seconds before the pressure light changes. I turn the key. The starter catches on the first try, and the engine starts cleaner than 391. Fuel gauge reads just under half. 2 running buses. I didn't think both would start. I shut down 472 to save fuel and leave 391 idling at the lowest throttle setting. Then I open the main depot doors from the inside. The electric mechanism is dead, so I have to crank them manually using the emergency handle. The doors roll up on their tracks, and daylight floods the depot floor. The yard outside is empty. Chain link fence, cracked concrete, weeds growing through the expansion joints. Beyond the fence, Jessup Road. No movement. I hear banging on the Jessup passage door. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. That's the pattern Seth and I agreed on years ago. I go to the door, pull the rebar bolt, and open it. Seth comes through first. Behind him is Colette Barr, a woman in her mid-40s with short grey hair and a rucksack over one shoulder. She's wearing the blue scrubs she still puts on every day, even though the clinic is closed. Behind Colette is Priya Chakravarti, 29, dark hair pulled back, carrying a canvas tool bag and looking around the depot with quick, careful eyes. Behind Priya is Dennis Yardley, 50-something, thin, wearing a zone administration jacket with the ID badge still clipped to the breast pocket. And behind Dennis, there are 8 more people. Men and women I recognize from the streets and the ration queues but don't know by name. Seth gathered everyone he could find on the way back. 12 people in total, including us. I close the door and replace the bolt. Seth introduces the newcomers briefly. There's a couple in their 30s, Felix and Bernadette Gorham, who lived on Pemberley Crescent and got out before the gon reached their block. There's an older woman named Pauline Dryden, who used to run the community laundry on Whitfield Street, and who is carrying, of all things, a cricket bat. There's a young man named Arun Bandari, who says he worked in the water treatment plant with Priya and knows basic mechanics. The others are a mix, frightened, quiet, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. I do have a plan. It's not a good plan, but it's the only one we've got. I explain it in the depot bay, standing in front of the 2 buses while the engine of 391 idles behind me. 2 buses, 12 people, 6 per bus. We drive south through the depot yard onto Jessup Road, follow it west to the High Street junction, go through the inner ring gate onto the High Street, and then straight south to the outer perimeter gate. 3 kilometers. At normal driving speed, about 4 minutes. The buses can handle light obstructions. The GON will be attracted to the engine noise, but they can't match the speed of a moving vehicle on a clear road. Dennis Yardley raises his hand, old habit from the administration office. He says the inner ring gate on the High Street is controlled by the zone administration and requires an access code to open. He says he has the code. He memorized it when he worked in the administration office, and they haven't changed it in 3 years because nobody thought they needed to. The code is 74291. Priya asks about the outer perimeter gate. The outer gate is heavier, military grade, designed to stop vehicles. Dennis says he doesn't have a code for that one. The garrison controlled it, and the garrison is gone. I say if the gate won't open, we'll go through it. 12 tons of bus at speed against a gate designed to stop cars. It's not ideal. It might disable the bus. But it's 3 kilometers from everything behind us, and I'll take those odds. Colette asks about injuries. She says if people get hurt, she doesn't have much to work with. Her rucksack contains bandages, antiseptic, a suture kit, and 4 doses of antibiotics that she saved from the clinic before it closed. No pain relief except paracetamol, no blood products. No surgical tools beyond the suture kit. She says if someone gets bitten, there's nothing she can do. We all know what a bite means. Felix Gorham asks what happens after we get through the outer gate. I say I don't know. I say the countryside outside the zone is unknown territory. None of us have been out there. The last reliable information about the outside world came from supply convoys that stopped running 2 years ago. There might be other settlements. There might be nothing. But there won't be fences, and there won't be ration lines, and there won't be Trent Broadley deciding who gets medicine. Nobody objects. Nobody says they want to stay. We load into the buses. I take the driver's seat of 391, the bus with less fuel but the running engine. Seth, Colette, Priya, Arun, and Pauline ride with me. Felix drives 472. He says he drove delivery vans before the outbreak and can handle a large vehicle. Dennis, Bernadette, and the remaining 4 passengers go with him. I show Felix the ignition sequence for the CNG engine, and he starts 472 on the first try. We pull out of the depot bays and into the yard. The chain-link gate at the front of the yard is padlocked. I don't stop. The bus hits the gate at about 15 kilometers per hour, and the chain-link tears off its posts and folds under the front wheels. We roll onto Jessup Road with 472 right behind us. Jessup Road is clear for the first 200 meters. Then I see them, a group of the GON, maybe 8 or 9, standing in the road near the junction with Fenwick Road. They turn toward the sound of the engines. 3 of them start moving in our direction immediately, that fast jerking walk that can accelerate into a sprint without warning. The others follow. I push the throttle forward, and the bus surges. The acceleration is sluggish, slow to build, but we pick up speed steadily. 20 kilometers per hour. 30. The gap between us and the GON closes, and then opens again as we pass them. One of them reaches the side of the bus and slaps its hand against the panel below my window. The impact makes a dull thud that reverberates through the cab. Then we're past, and they're behind us. In the mirror, I can see 472, following at about 30 meters. Felix is keeping good spacing. The GON on Fenwick Road are turning toward his bus now, but he's already passed them before they can close the distance. We turn left onto the High Street. This is the main road through Halworth, 4 lanes wide, with shops and flats on both sides. In the old days it would have been full of traffic. Now it's full of debris. Overturned market stalls, abandoned carts, rubbish that hasn't been collected in months. I weave through it, using the bus's width to push smaller obstacles aside. A wooden handcart bounces off the front bumper and shatters against the curb. The inner ring gate is ahead. It's a steel frame barrier spanning the full width of the road, with a guard booth on the left side. The barrier is down. I pull up in front of it, and Seth jumps out of the bus before I can tell him to wait. He runs to the control panel on the guard booth, punches in the code Dennis gave us, and the barrier lifts with a hydraulic whine. I drive through. 472 follows. Seth sprints back to my bus and gets on through the front door just as I start moving again. The barrier comes back down behind us. The high street beyond the inner ring is different, quieter. The buildings here are administrative. Zone offices, the constabulary station, the old council chambers. Nobody lives here. The road is cleaner. For a moment I think we might make it to the outer gate without any more problems. Then I see the crowd. About 300 meters ahead, blocking the road, there's a mass of people and vehicles. Constables, civilians, administration workers. They're clustered around the entrance to the constabulary station, and they've built a barricade across the high street using cars, sandbags, and sections of metal fencing. Behind the barricade I can see Deputy Administrator Whitmore standing on the bonnet of a truck, shouting instructions I can't hear. And beyond the barricade, on the far side, between us and the outer gate, the road is thick with the gone. Dozens of them, maybe more than 100. They came in from the east, through the Stockton Road gate, which means Trent's crew either let them through or couldn't stop them. The gone are pressed against the far side of the barricade, pushing against the cars and fencing, and the constables on this side are using batons and improvised weapons to keep them back. The outer gate is about 500 meters past the barricade. I can see it from here. It's closed, locked, and between it and us, there are more gone than I've ever seen in one place. I stop the bus. Behind me, 472 stops. Seth leans forward in his seat and says a word I won't repeat. Priya comes to the front and looks through the windscreen. Nobody speaks for a long time. Colette is the first one to say something practical. She says we can't go through the barricade because the constables will try to stop us. She says we can't go around because the buildings on either side are solid. She says the only other route to the outer gate is Drummond Street, which runs parallel to the High Street, 1 block to the east. She asks if Drummond Street connects to the outer gate. I close my eyes and pull up the route map in my head. Route 9. Halworth Depot to the southern perimeter, via Jessup Road, High Street, and Outer Access Road. But Route 12 went a different way. Route 12 ran from the depot east to Stockton Road, then south along Drummond Street to the commercial district, then west to rejoin the High Street just before the outer gate. The junction is past the barricade, past the crowd of gone. If Drummond Street is clear, we can bypass the barricade entirely and come at the outer gate from a different angle, I tell Seth. He says Drummond Street goes right past Trent's fallback location, the old office block where Trent was moving his medicine stash. That means Trent's crew is probably there, and they probably won't be happy to see 2 buses full of people driving through their operation. I say I don't care what Trent thinks. I reverse the bus, 3-point turn in the middle of the High Street, and head back north toward the inner ring gate. 472 follows. At the gate I have to get out and enter the code manually from this side. The barrier lifts and we drive through, heading back the way we came. Then east on Fenwick Road towards Stockton Road. Stockton Road is bad. The gone are everywhere, moving in loose groups through the streets, drawn by the noise from the barricade to the south. I count at least 20 in the road ahead of us. I don't slow down. The bus hits 2 of them, and they go under the wheels with a sound I'll remember for as long as I live. It's not a clean sound. It's heavy and final. The bus shudders but doesn't lose speed. We turn south onto Drummond Street. It's narrower than the High Street, lined with terraced houses on the west side and the backs of commercial buildings on the east. The road surface is worse, potholed and patched. The bus bounces over the holes, and I have to grip the wheel hard to keep it straight. Halfway down Drummond Street, I see Trent Broadley's operation. 2 large vans are parked across the road in front of the old office block, and 4 men are carrying boxes from the building to the vans. One of them looks up when he hears the bus. It's Warren Lumley. He drops the box he's carrying and reaches for something on his belt. I don't stop. Warren jumps out of the way as the bus passes between the 2 vans, with centimeters to spare on either side. The wing mirror on the left side clips one of the vans and folds back against the bus with a crack. Behind me I hear shouting. I check the mirror. 472 is through as well, though Felix had to swerve wider and one of the vans has been pushed sideways by the contact. Trent's men are shouting and one of them throws something at the back of 472. I don't see what it is. Doesn't matter, we're past. At the bottom of Drummond Street, the road curves west and meets the outer access road. I can see the outer gate about 200 meters ahead. It's a heavy steel structure, taller than the inner ring gate, set between concrete pillars. The road leading to it is clear. No barricade, no constables, no gone, but the gate is closed. Solid steel panels, locked in position, with no visible control panel on this side. The garrison controlled it from the outside, using a system that requires both a code and a physical key. Dennis doesn't have either. I stop the bus about 50 meters from the gate. 472 pulls up beside me. Felix opens his window and asks what we're doing. I tell him the gate's locked and we don't have the code. He asks what the plan is. I tell him the plan hasn't changed. 12 tons. Steel gate. Physics. I turn to the people on my bus. Seth, Colette, Priya, Arun, Pauline. I tell them to brace themselves against the seat frames and hold on. Pauline grips her cricket bat across her chest and wedges herself between 2 seats. Colette pulls her rucksack into her lap and wraps her arms around it. Priya braces her feet against the base of the seat in front of her. I tell Felix over the radio to stay back. If my bus breaks through, follow me. If it doesn't, reverse and find another way. He acknowledges. I put 391 into gear and push the throttle as far as it goes. The engine roars and the bus surges forward. The speedometer climbs. 20, 30, 40. The gate fills the windscreen. I aim for the center where the 2 panels meet, the weakest point of the structure. The impact throws me forward. The bus hits the gate at 45 kilometers per hour. The windscreen cracks from bottom to top. The steering wheel jerks in my hands so hard that I lose my grip and my chest hits the dash. The front of the bus crumples inward by about half a meter. The gate panels buckle outward, the lock mechanism shatters, and the panels swing open, one of them tearing completely off its hinges and falling flat on the road beyond. The bus is still moving. The engine is making a sound it shouldn't be making, a grinding whine that means something in the transmission is broken. But the wheels are turning, and we're through the gate and rolling onto a road I've never been on before. Open road, no fences on either side. Fields. Actual fields, with grass and hedgerows and trees. The sky is grey and wide and there's nothing blocking it. I've seen pictures of countryside. I've seen it on the old television broadcasts. But I've never been in it, and for a moment my hands are useless on the wheel because I can't process what I'm looking at. Then, the engine dies. 391 rolls to a stop about 200 meters past the gate. The front end crumpled, steam rising from under the bonnet, transmission fluid leaking from somewhere underneath. We're done. The bus isn't going any further. But 472 comes through the smashed gate 10 seconds later, engine running clean. No damage except the missing wing mirror and a dent in the front panel from the Drummond Street van. Felix pulls up next to us and opens the door. We transfer. 6 people from my bus to his. It's cramped. 12 people in a bus designed for 40, but nobody complains. I take the driver's seat from Felix because I know the vehicle, and he doesn't argue. The fuel gauge on 472 reads just above a quarter. Enough. I look in the mirror as we pull away. Through the smashed outer gate I can see the buildings of Halworth behind us, smoke rising from 3 or 4 locations. The fences, the watchtowers, the grey rooftops of the zone that's been my entire world for 10 years. And at the gate itself, coming through the gap where the steel panels used to be, I can see them. They're gone, spilling out of the zone and onto the open road, following the sound of the engine, following us. But they're on foot, and we're in a bus, and the distance grows with every second. I drive south. The road is cracked and overgrown but passable. No other vehicles, no people, just fields and hedgerows, and the occasional farmhouse standing empty with its windows dark. The world outside the zone is emptier and wider than anything I prepared myself for. It's big, unreasonably, incomprehensibly big. After 10 years inside 3 square kilometers, the openness of it is hard to process. My eyes keep trying to find a wall or a fence, and there isn't one. Priya moves to the seat behind me and says she found something in the glove box. It's a printed memo, folded in thirds, dated 6 months ago, Zone Administration letterhead. She reads it out loud, and her voice is flat and careful. The memo is from the Garrison Command to the Zone Administration. It references a directive from the Central Coordination Authority, which is the closest thing to a government that still exists in the southern settlements. The directive states that Halworth Quarantine Zone has been reclassified from Category B, meaning maintained and scheduled for evacuation, to Category D, meaning decommissioned and non-recoverable. The directive authorizes the garrison to withdraw from the perimeter at a date to be determined and recommends that remaining civilian population be, and I'm reading the exact words here, allowed to disperse through natural attrition. Natural attrition, that's what they called it. Leave the fences undefended, let the gone come through, let the population of Halworth die or scatter. No buses, no evacuation. The announcement 3 days ago was a lie to keep people calm while the garrison packed up and left. Seth is sitting across the aisle. He heard the memo. He looks at me and I look at him, and neither of us says anything, because there is nothing to say. We already knew. Not the details, not the exact words, but the shape of it. Halworth was always the last priority. Reggie Firth said it this morning, and he was right. He's been right about everything for 10 years. I wonder if Reggie is still sitting on his doorstep. I wonder if his bolted door held. I hope it did, but I don't know, and I probably never will. We drive for about 20 kilometers before the fuel gauge drops to empty, and the engine starts to stutter. I pull the bus off the road into a farmyard and shut down the engine. The silence is enormous. No sirens, no generators, no distant sound of 4,000 people living on top of each other. Just wind and birds and the ticking of the cooling engine. We get out. 12 people standing in a farmyard in the middle of the English countryside, surrounded by empty buildings and overgrown fields. Nobody speaks for a while. Bernadette Gorham sits down on the ground and starts crying. Felix puts his arm around her. Pauline Dryden sets her cricket bat down against a wall and walks to the farmhouse door and tries the handle. It's unlocked. She goes inside. Colette opens her rucksack and starts checking her medical supplies, counting bandages and antiseptic packets, making an inventory out of habit. Priya wanders over to a barn and comes back a few minutes later to report that there's a hand pump over a well and the water appears clean. Dennis Yardley sits on the bus steps and takes off his zone administration jacket and folds it neatly and puts it on the ground beside him. Arun asks me what we do now. I tell him I don't know. I say we find water and shelter and food, and we figure out where we are and where we can go. I say we do what people do, when everything they had is gone, and the only direction is forward. He nods. He picks up a bucket from the yard and walks toward the well pump. The farmhouse has 4 rooms. Pauline has already checked all of them. There's no one inside, living or otherwise. The furniture is still in place, dusty but intact. There are tins in the kitchen. Not many, but some. Beans, soup, condensed milk. The stove is gas connected, and when Priya checks the valve, there's still pressure in the line. Small mercies. That evening, after we've eaten and secured the doors and posted Seth and Aaron as lookouts on the upper floor, I go back outside and stand in the yard. It's getting dark. The sky is clear for the first time all day and I can see stars. I haven't seen stars properly in years. The zone lights always drown them out, even during the 4-hour electricity windows. Tomorrow, We need to bury the dead. Not here, not physically, but in our heads. The people we left behind. Reggie on his doorstep, the crowd at the barricade, the constables fighting a losing battle on the high street, the 4,000 people in Halworth who were written off by a directive from someone who never lived behind a fence. I'm not going to try to expose anyone. I'm not going to find the Central Coordination Authority and wave that memo in their faces. I don't care about justice or blame or making anyone answer for what they did. I care about the 11 people in that farmhouse, and the well pump in the yard, and the tins in the kitchen, and the fact that for the first time in my life, the horizon is not a wall. The old world is gone. Not the world before the outbreak. That's been gone for a decade. I mean the world inside the zone, the rations and the checkpoints and the curfew and the slow, grinding certainty that someone else was deciding whether we lived or died. That world ended this morning when I started a bus engine in an empty depot and drove through a steel gate. Whatever comes next, it's ours. That's enough. That's all there is.